So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
5 a.m., I'm up with a crisp Celsius energy drink. Running 12 miles today. Grab a green juice, quick change, and head to work. Meetings, workshops. One more Celsius, no slowing down. Working late, but obviously still meeting the girls for a little dancing. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about the phrase married single mom, which is all over social media, and describe for you what that is. And first, I'll tell you to subscribe. My most recent subscriber episode was how not to be a two-headed codependent hydra with your partner, because I always talk about how you should do a lot of stuff as a couple, but not everything, and we will talk about that. There's also over 200 extra subscriber episodes, all for the low price of, I think, $8.99 a month. Okay, so the phrase married single mom is all over social media, and women saying that they divorced because they felt like a married single mom. And so what does this mean? This means the women that usually the husband has ADHD or depression or a substance use issue, some sort of addiction, gaming addiction, porn addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction. And so she does everything. And she actually does do everything. You know, I mean, she is an over-functioner and he's an under-functioner, and she basically is living like either that he's not there altogether because he's so frequently gone, whether that is at work or with hobbies or with friends or, you know, drinking or partying or what have you, or he is kind of like another child and doesn't do any chores and doesn't really do any childcare. But he sits there, you know, at the meals, and he sits on the couch at night with them. So he's physically in the home, but he's not really doing anything. And so when a woman says that they've been a married single mom for a long time, you know, the people who get into these situations tend to be people that saw these exact same situations. And by the way, these don't just start when you're married. You're also a dating single mom, you know, even though you don't have kids yet, but like you are the person when dating that, and then of course when moving in together, that's doing everything, right? You plan the date. So before you're living together, you plan the date. You're just planning their doctor's appointments for them. Usually they haven't gone in years and years. You are talking to their mom to figure out going there for Thanksgiving. You're doing, of course, obviously, any of the cooking or hosting him at your house. Start to do the laundry over at his house. Basically everything. And so a woman that's drawn to this situation, it does not just creep up on you. It does not creep up on you with children. You were already treating the man like a child. And he was happy because some of these men, they are so dysfunctional that they didn't even think that they would get married or like have a relationship because they do struggle with their mental health a lot. And another one that I see frequently is hoarding goes along with this, where like the guy basically lives in a complete pigsty, but the woman comes over, she cleans it up, she organizes it, and then she says, actually, you should just move in with me. And then she's always in this whole battle against the piles of shit that he won't throw out and whatever. So if you see something like this where your mom was this person that was basically running the entire house and your dad was doing nothing, you know, or sometimes it could be that the mom was the alcoholic or was depressed and the dad was doing everything, but usually a married single mom type is going to be modeling on her own mother. And, it feels like that's just the way that things go. And since in the previous generation, men did do less housework and things like that, the mother was not as far from the norm as the women are now. And that mother would not have said she's a married single mom if that term had existed, because she still had the guy's paycheck, usually. Sometimes they do not work either, but usually it was more within somewhere in the realm of the normal distribution. Nowadays, with guys doing so much more in childcare and home care and just everything, it's much more unusual to replicate this dynamic of basically the 50s. And there's more and more women who are working and are the primary breadwinner in this situation. Then you truly feel like you might as well be divorced, because then he would give child support if he was working, and you would not have another person to clean up after in the house. And as I said, since a lot of times there's depression, ADHD, hoarding, addiction, a lot of these people, the guys, are very messy, and she's known that from the beginning, but it didn't get to be unsustainable until after children. And also when she was in the honeymoon phase, things felt easier. It felt easier to just take care of an entire other human being. And now she has children to take care of, so it's totally different. Now, the woman in this situation usually struggles with anxiety, and I've talked about the anxious woman and ADHD husband match a lot. And the anxiety was, part of it is that she won't find a guy, that she won't find somebody who loves her to get married to. And so she finds this guy. It almost feels like a diamond in the rough, but then it just keeps being rough, and there's less and less diamond and more rough as things continue to go on in the relationship. And at this point, when the woman has kids, she's squarely out of the honeymoon phase, she starts to feel this is unsustainable with one kid. But then usually the shit really hits the fan when there's multiple kids. So you might say, why would she stay if things are already bad with one kid? Because you have a biological imperative. People tend to want their children to have siblings, and you are just kind of in what I call baby derangement syndrome. I have a post on that. And you just want your family. You're in like a breeding mode, and so it's really very hard to extricate when you have one baby and you want more babies. You're not even thinking. It's, again, why I call it baby derangement syndrome. I've seen women that are in that phase of wanting to have another baby, and they can ignore any problem. He's drinking, no problem. He's gambling, no problem. They'll still fight with him about it and shit, but they will not leave because they are in that biological phase, of wanting to breed, wanting to have their baby. Everything seems like it's no big problem. They're drunk on possibility. Now, once you've had your last baby, or whatever you think is going to be your last baby, your second or your third usually, things change. Then you're like, oh my God, I am kind of in this life for the rest of my life. Is this sustainable? And then you get out of this biological, breeding, nursing phase. You get a little bit past it. You go back to work or not. If you're stay-at-home mom, then you're at home. But either way, you start like picking up your head and looking around you and be like, oh my God, other guys do things. They do so much for their family. And of course, nowadays, they really do so much for their family. Like a lot of guys do at least half the housework. Or if they're not doing at least half, they're working more, and so then they're doing a third, and it all evens out, whatever. But the point is that the juxtaposition between the average man and a man who doesn't do anything is much more profound in this generation than ever before, which is why this term has caught on, and it's something that women are being so open about, and a reason for divorce. Because it didn't used to be that a reason for divorce would be that he does nothing around the house. It's like, okay, well, be happy that he doesn't abuse you and that he brings home his paycheck if he works, and the children need a father. And also nowadays things have changed because of split custody. You don't really think that if you get divorced, your husband will never see the kids again. That was more like in the 1970s or before. Nowadays, fathers still stay involved. A lot of these guys that are less functional will in fact move in with their own family again. So when on their weekends or what have you after divorce, then the children will go over to grandma and grandpa's house where dad is. And that's not a bad situation for the children generally, because they get to see more family. But I've seen that, more than once, is that without her to do everything, the man was in fact unable to do anything. And if he has more money, then he will have like a housekeeper, or he'll have somebody who keeps his stuff in order. And then, of course, frequently that just becomes another girlfriend, who then is, the whole cycle starts again. She comes in and she says, well, of course, he can't do anything around the house because of his bitch ex-wife that takes up all his emotional bandwidth. And if I were here, the delusional cycle starts again with another woman. And so I saw a funny meme. It was, my mom made friends with two of my dad's ex-wives. It's called The Opposite of My Dad's Fan Club. But I have seen many times working with couples and individuals over the years that in these situations, the people divorce and then the guy gets involved with another woman, that it starts from scratch. Then she becomes the one who's cleaning his house and organizing his stuff. And then she even takes over the pickups and the drop-offs. And, she basically becomes the point of contact on the weekends because the guy can't function. And sometimes, though, by the way, these guys do learn to be more functional. They go into AA, or they get their ADHD diagnosed, or they get on an SSRI. They start going into therapy. They start thinking about more of who they want to be as a person, as a parent. You don't want to get divorced a second time. But I'll tell you, a lot of the people, and then, of course, the married single mom women get into therapy, too, to be like, why do men never treat me well? Like, why do I continue to get into these situations, So it's not unusual for the next guy that they meet off Hinge to be another unemployed person with a drinking problem, And then once that happens, you're like, wait a second, is this me? And then that's when hopefully you get into therapy and you're like, my God, I'm an overfunctioner. Like, I never met a problem I couldn't solve. A lot of my self-esteem is predicated on being, quote, useful to these men that are subfunctional. That cannot be competent in the world. But with my help, I feel that is what I can do because I'm insecure about how much I would be desired without leading with this capacity to take care of them. And developing increased self-esteem and self-worth here is really instrumental for these women to say, maybe my entire value as a person and as a partner is not how much I can perform, how many tasks I can execute to make somebody's life easier. Perhaps a relationship should not be like me caretaking only, and instead should be with somebody who also takes care of me, which is very, very uncomfortable because remember, you don't have the model. Your mom didn't get taken care of. Your mom was only a caretaker. She never was the one who was given presents or was given a break or was treated nicely. She was the martyr that was doing everything for everybody all the time. So then you take on that identity yourself. It feels very familiar. Even if you don't like it, it feels very comfortable. So therapy can help both people not to get into this same sort of dynamic. Now, if they're lucky enough to get into couples counseling and push hard enough, then sometimes that could be transformative because a lot of times the man, by the way, grew up seeing the same thing. Either they were the one who was always a problem with ADHD or just a learning disability that was undiagnosed or whatever was going on. ADHD often concords with learning disabilities and school behavior issues. So basically they are used to their mom usually doing everything for them and taking care of them completely. And now their wife is doing the same thing. Often they don't even realize the overlap till we talk about it in therapy. And they don't want to be that person and they don't want to lose their family and they want to maybe see if they can be a more equal presence in the home and somebody worthy of their wife and their children's respect instead of somebody who's just peripheral to the entire family. And as I said, this means frequently tackling issues such as depression, ADHD, or addiction and finally admitting that these things are an issue. So if this couple with the married single mom and her husband are able to get into therapy, sometimes the dynamic can really be transformed. So don't feel that it's hopeless, because nothing is hopeless. I've seen so many people transform really bad dynamics, have less conflict, more understanding, and come up with new ways to engage with each other. And of course, it should go without saying that this couple has basically no sex, because she can't have sex with somebody who she feels is either a child or an absentee ghost. So that is another thing that is missing from her life and from his life. And so when they reconnect in a more equal and loving way, then sex can go back on the table in a way that it really wasn't even appropriate for sex to be on the table before, because there was no kinship between these people. They're basically living separate lives, and she's caring for him and for the children, and her resentment is through the roof, and he feels like it isn't even his family sometimes, it's kind of, he's so peripheral to the entire experience of parenting in the home that it's hard for him to even engage or to feel any motivation to change until we really talk about what his goals are for parenthood and for being a husband and for being a father. Often, by the way, these guys did not have fathers around, and so they don't have any role model for what it's like to be a strong father in the home, and they just know what it's like to be a child in a home. So then that is the role that they take even when they are a father. All right, I hope that you found this interesting, guys. Always, please do subscribe for more episodes. And if you ever need a therapist or a coach, reach out to us at bestlifebehavioralhealth.com to work with me or like 12 awesome people who work at my practice. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.